What happens when one of Hollywood's biggest legends sits down with one of television's most outspoken hosts, and things go so wrong that it ends with shocking resignation? The View has seen its share of heated moments over the years, but nothing could have prepared anyone for what unfolded when Eddie Murphy walked onto that stage. This wasn't just another celebrity interview gone sideways. This was a collision of egos, perspectives, and unfiltered opinions that would change daytime television forever. Before we get into exactly what was said that made Joy Behar walk off her own show for good, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us what you think about all of this, because trust me, you're going to have opinions. The audience applause was still echoing through the studio as Eddie Murphy settled into a seat on the famous View couch. Joy Behar sat across from him, notes in hand, that familiar smirk already forming on her face. The other hosts were there, too, but from the moment Murphy sat down, it was clear this was going to be Joy's show. She leaned forward, not even waiting for the applause to fully die down. "Eddie Murphy, welcome to The View," Joy said, her voice dripping with that particular tone she reserves for guests she thinks she's about to corner. "You know, I've been looking forward to this because I have so many questions, and I have a feeling you're not going to like some of them." Eddie smiled, that classic Eddie Murphy smile that's disarmed audiences for decades. "Joy, I've been doing interviews for 40 years. I think I can handle whatever you got." "Oh, I'm sure you think you can." Joy shot back. "Let's start with something simple. Your career has had quite the arc. You were the biggest thing in comedy. Then you kind of disappeared for a while. Now you're back. What happened? Did Hollywood get tired of you, or did you get tired of Hollywood?" The audience went quiet. It was a loaded question, and everyone knew it. Eddie's smile didn't fade, but something shifted in his eyes. "That's an interesting way to phrase it. Joy, I didn't disappear. I made a choice. I chose my family. I chose to step back and be a father to my kids instead of chasing every movie role that came my way. Not everyone understands that, but I don't need everyone to understand it." Joy waved her hand dismissively. "Right, the family man angle. But come on, Eddie, you had 9 movies flop in a row. Norbit, Meet Dave, imagine that. These weren't artistic choices. These were bad movies that nobody wanted to see. Isn't it more accurate to say that you didn't step back? You were pushed out." Eddie's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice stayed level. "Joy, with all due respect, you're talking about something you don't understand. Those movies, some of them were for my kids. Some of them were passion projects. Were they all hits? No. Did I care? Not really. I had already proven everything I needed to prove in this industry. I didn't need to prove it again to people like you. People like me." Joy's eyebrows shot up. "What does that mean? People like me?" "Critics who've never created anything," Eddie said, his voice still calm, but with an edge now. "People who sit on the sidelines and judge everyone else's work. You've been on this show for how many years, Joy? Giving your opinions on everything and everyone. But what have you actually done? What have you created that people will remember in 50 years? The other hosts shifted uncomfortably. Joy's face flushed red. "Excuse me. I've had a career in comedy for decades. I was on Saturday Night Live for a season," Eddie interrupted. "You were on SNL for 1 season. I was there for 4 years, and I carried that show. There's a difference between being on something and being the reason people tune in." Joy's voice rose. "So now you're going to sit here and diminish my career? That's rich coming from someone who played a donkey in a children's movie. A children's movie that made almost $500 million, Eddie countered. A movie that kids still love today. A movie that brought joy to millions of families. What did your stand-up specials do, Joy? How many people's lives did you touch?" "This is unbelievable," Joy said, looking at the other hosts as if for backup. "You come on here with this attitude like you're above criticism, like you're above being questioned." "I'm not above being questioned," Eddie said, his voice growing firmer. "I'm above being disrespected. There's a difference between asking tough questions and starting an interview by basically calling me a failure. You set the tone here." "Joy, not me." Joy laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. "Oh, so I'm the bad guy now. I'm just doing my job. This is what we do on this show. We ask the questions that other shows won't ask. No, Eddie said, leaning forward now. What you do is ambush people. What you do is invite someone on, smile to their face, and then try to tear them down for ratings. I've watched this show, Joy. I've seen how you operate. You think you're being brave and honest, but really you're just being mean. The audience was dead silent. You could feel the tension radiating from the stage. Joy's face was now fully red, her hands gripping her note cards so tight they were starting to bend. Mean? You want to talk about mean, Eddie? Let's talk about some of the things you've said in your comedy over the years. Let's talk about some of the jokes you made in the 80s and nines that wouldn't fly today. You want to go there? Eddie sat back, a knowing look crossing his face. There it is. I was wondering when you'd bring that up. Yes, Joy. I made jokes decades ago that I wouldn't make today. I've grown. I've evolved. I've apologized for the things I've said that hurt people. Have you? Have I what? Joy snapped. Have you apologized for all the things you've said on this show that hurt people? Have you apologized for your mistakes? Or do you just hold everyone else to a standard you don't hold yourself to? Joy stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. I don't have to sit here and be lectured by you about standards. I've been fighting for what's right my entire career. Fighting for what's right or fighting for attention? Eddie asked, his voice cutting through the studio. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks a lot more like the second one. Joy was standing now, her face a mixture of anger and something else. Maybe hurt, maybe embarrassment. The other hosts were frozen, unsure whether to intervene or let this play out. Eddie remained seated at calm, his eyes never leaving Joy's face. You know what your problem is, Eddie? Joy said, her voice shaking slightly. Your problem is that you can't handle the fact that you're not untouchable anymore. You had your moment. You were the king, and now you're just another actor trying to stay relevant. Eddie shook his head slowly. See, that's where you're wrong. Joy, I'm not trying to stay relevant. I don't need to be relevant. I'm doing what I love, working on projects. I care about spending time with my family. Relevance is something people like you obsess over because you're terrified of being forgotten. I'm not scared of that. Oh, please. Joy scoffed, still standing. Everyone in Hollywood is scared of being forgotten. That's why you came back. That's why you did Dalit Is My Name. That's why you're sitting here right now on this show. I'm sitting here, Eddie said, his voice dropping lower because I was invited. And I said yes because I thought it would be a conversation. I didn't realize I was walking into an interrogation designed to make me look bad, so you could feel good about yourself. Joy pointed at him, her hand trembling. You don't get to come on my show and tell me what kind of host I am. Your show? Eddie raised his eyebrows. Last I checked, there were 4 other women sitting up here. But yeah, you're right. It is your show, isn't it? That's the problem. It's supposed to be the view, plural, different perspectives. But really it's just your view, and everyone else has to fall in line or shut up. One of the other hosts tried to jump in. Eddie, maybe we can know. Joy cut her off. No, let him talk. Let him tell us all how terrible I am. Let him tell America how Joy Behar is the problem with television. I never said you were the problem with television. Eddie replied, but you're definitely a problem with this conversation. You asked me here to promote a project, to have a discussion, but what you really wanted was a target. You wanted someone you could take shots at to make yourself look tough. Joy's laugh was harsh now. You think I need you to look tough? I've been taking on politicians, presidents, powerful men for years. You're a comedian, Eddie. You're not that important. Then why are you so angry? Eddie asked simply, if I'm not that important, why are you shaking right now? Why are you so defensive? The question hung in the air like smoke. Joy opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I'm not defensive. I'm angry because you came on here and disrespected me in front of my audience in my house. I responded to disrespect with honesty. Eddie said, you started this, Joy. From the moment I sat down, you came at me. You questioned my career, my choices, my integrity. And now you're mad because I didn't just sit here and take it with a smile. That's what guests are supposed to do. Joy shot back. You come on. You answer the questions. You promote your project. And you leave. You don't attack the host. Eddie leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Is that what you think this is? An attack? Joy, I'm just matching your energy. You want to have a real conversation? I'm here for it. But if you want to play this game where you get to say whatever you want and I'm supposed to just nod and agree, that's not happening. I have too much respect for myself. Respect? Joy repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You want to talk about respect? You walked away from Saturday Night Live and barely looked back. You spent years making movies that were beneath your talent just for a paycheck. You're going to lecture me about respect. I walked away from SNL because I had conquered it, Eddie said, his voice rising for the first time. I was 23 years old, and I was the biggest star on that show. I had offers pouring in. I made a choice to grow, to evolve, to challenge myself. What have you done, Joy? You've been on this show for over 2 decades, saying the same things, making the same jokes, having the same arguments. Who's really stuck here? The audience gasped. Joy's face went pale, then red again. How dare you? How dare you come into the studio and tell me I'm stuck? I love this show. I love what I do. I believe you love it. Eddie said softer now. But loving something and hiding in something are 2 different things. You're comfortable here. You're safe here. You can say whatever you want, and you've got your co-hosts and your audience to back you up. But out there in the real world, when it's just you and your work, what do you have? Joy's voice cracked. I have a career that's lasted longer than most. I have respect in this industry. You have fear, Eddie said quietly. I can see it in your eyes. Joy, you're terrified that if you're not the loudest voice in the room, people will forget you exist. That's why you go so hard. That's why you can't just have a normal conversation with a guest. You have to dominate. You have to win. You have to prove you're still relevant. Stop it, Joy said, her voice barely above a whisper. Now just stop. I'm not trying to hurt you, Eddie said, and for the first time, there was something almost gentle in his voice. I'm trying to be honest with you, because I've been where you are. I know what it's like to feel like you have to prove yourself every single day. But at some point, you have to let that go. You have to be secure enough in who you are that you don't need to tear other people down. Joy stood there silent, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The studio was so quiet you could hear the cameras moving. Then suddenly she ripped off. Her microphone, the sound of it crackling through the speakers. I don't need this. I don't need to stand here and be psychoanalyzed by someone who thinks he knows me. Joy, one of the other hosts started, reaching for her arm. Joy pulled away. No, I'm done. I'm done with this conversation. I'm done with this interview. I'm done with all of it. She looked directly at Eddie, tears forming in her eyes, though her voice was still strong. You think you know everything, Eddie Murphy. You think because you've had success, because people love you, that gives you the right to judge everyone else. But you don't know me. You don't know what I've been through, what I've sacrificed, what I've had to fight for every single day in this business. You're right, Eddie said, standing up now to face her at eye level. I don't know everything about you, but I know what I see. And what I see is someone who's exhausted from always having to fight. Maybe it's time to stop fighting, Joy. Maybe it's time to just be. The words hit Joy like a physical force. She stood there, microphone in hand, staring at Eddie Murphy with an expression that was impossible to read. Was it anger? Was it recognition? Was it something deeper that she'd been avoiding for years? The other host sat frozen. The audience held its collective breath, and the cameras kept rolling. Just be, Joy repeated, her voice hollow. Just be. That's easy for you to say, isn't it? You get to just be Eddie Murphy, legend, icon, beloved by millions. I have to fight for every inch of respect I get. I have to prove myself every single day because I'm a woman in comedy, because I'm older, because I don't fit into their perfect little box of what a female comedian is supposed to be. Eddie's expression softened. I hear you, Joy. I do. And you're right. I can't fully understand what that's like, but at what cost? At what point does the fighting become who you are instead of what you do? You're so busy proving you belong that you're not enjoying the fact that you already do belong. You're already here. You've already made it. Joy shook her head, a bitter smile crossing her face. Made it? You think this is making it? Sitting here day after day, dealing with criticism from every angle, being told I'm too loud, too opinionated, too much. And now you Eddie Murphy himself sitting in my studio telling me I'm just fighting to stay relevant. That's not what I said. Eddie corrected her. I said you're fighting because you're scared to stop. There's a difference. Don't tell me what I'm scared of. Joy snapped, but the fire in her voice was dimming. You don't get to walk in here after 40 years of being untouchable and tell me about fear. Eddie laughed, but it wasn't mocking. It was genuine, almost sad. Untouchable? Joy, I've been torn apart by critics, by the media, by people who used to love me. I've had movies bomb so bad they became punchlines. I've had my personal life dragged through the tabloids. I've been criticized for every choice I've made, professionally and personally. The difference is I learned to stop letting it define me. Good for you, Joy said, her voice cracking again. Good for you for being so evolved, so above it all. Must be nice. It's not about being above it, Eddie said, taking a step closer. It's about deciding what matters. You know what I realized after all those flops you mentioned earlier? After all those years of people saying I was washed up, finished, irrelevant, I realized that the only opinion that mattered was my own. Not the critics, not the box office, not the talk show hosts who wanted to take shots at me. Just mine. Joy's hands were shaking now. The microphone still clutched in her fingers. And what if my opinion of myself isn't enough? What if I need this? What if I need to know that I still matter? That people still care what I think? That I'm still worth listening to? The vulnerability in her voice was raw, unfiltered, and it seemed to surprise even her. Eddie's face changed, the defensiveness melting away into something closer to compassion. Joy, you matter. You do, but not because of this show. Not because you can out or argue someone or land a clever insult. You matter because of who you are, not what you do. That's a nice sentiment, Joy said, wiping at her eyes quickly. But it doesn't pay the bills. It doesn't keep me employed. It doesn't keep me from being forgotten. So, you'd rather be remembered as someone who was mean, someone who made guests uncomfortable, someone who chose conflict over connection just to stay employed. Eddie asked, is that the legacy you want? Joy's face crumpled. For a moment, she looked like she might break down completely. Then she straightened, took a deep breath, and looked Eddie directly in the eyes. You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I am scared. Maybe I am fighting too hard. Maybe I've turned this job into my whole identity, and I don't know who I am without it. But you know what else? That's my problem to figure out. Not yours, not anyone else's mine. I respect that, Eddie said simply. Do you? Joy challenged. Because it feels like you came here today to teach me some kind of lesson. Like you're the wise elder statesman of comedy, and I'm the angry woman who needs to calm down and find herself. Eddie shook his head. That's not what this is. You started this interview by attacking me by questioning my career and my choices. I defended myself. That's all this is. But somewhere in the middle of that, we both said some real things, some true things. And now you get to decide what you do with that. Joy looked around the studio at her co-hosts, at the audience, at the cameras. Then she looked back at Eddie. You want to know what I'm going to do with it? I'm going to walk out of here right now. I'm going to leave this stage, and I'm going to think about everything you said, and I'm going to decide if this is still where I want to be. One of the other hosts stood up. Joy, come on. Let's just take a breath. And no, Joy cut her off. But not unkindly. I'm serious. I need to go. I need to think. She turned back to Eddie one last time. You're infuriating. You know that. Absolutely infuriating. But you're also right about some things. Not everything, but some things. And I hate that I can't even argue with you about it, because deep down I know it's true. Eddie nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think you're incredibly talented. I think you're smart, funny, and you've earned every bit of success you have. But I also think you're exhausted. And I think you deserve better than spend every day fighting battles that don't need to be fought. Joy's lip quivered. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally spoke. I've been doing this show for 25 years. 25 years of showing up, giving my opinions, fighting for what I believe in. And in all that time, no one has ever said to me what you just said. No one has ever looked at me and seen that I'm tired. They just see the loudmouth, the troublemaker, the woman who won't shut up. I see you, Joy, Eddie said softly. I see all of it. For a long moment, they just stood there, two comedy legends in the middle of a daytime talk show set, having accidentally stumbled into something far more real than either of them had planned. Then Joy dropped the microphone on the table, not thrown in anger, but placed with finality. I'm done, she said. And this time, her voice was steady. Not just with this interview. I'm done with this show. I'm done pretending that this is enough. I'm done fighting to prove I still have value. Eddie Murphy, you just did what no one else has been able to do in 25 years. You made me question everything. So, congratulations, I guess. The studio erupted in chaos. Producers were yelling. The other hosts were trying to get Joy to sit back down. The audience didn't know whether to applaud or sit in stunned silence. But Joy just walked off the stage, her heels clicking against the floor, her head held high despite the tears streaming down her face. Eddie watched her go, then looked at the remaining hosts, at the cameras, at the confused audience. I didn't come here for this, he said quietly. I came here to talk about a movie. But sometimes conversations go where they need to go, not where we plan for them to go. He sat back down slowly, looking drained. I hope she's okay. I really do. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of the fallout. But Eddie Murphy just sat there in silence, processing what had just happened. He'd been in Hollywood for over 40 years, had lived through countless controversies and confrontations. But this was different. This felt like he'd just witnessed someone's armor crack, and he wasn't sure if he'd helped her or broken her. What started as a contentious interview had turned into something nobody could have predicted. Joy Behar, one of the most recognizable faces in daytime television, had just walked away from a view in the middle of a live taping. And it was all because of conversation that got too real too fast. Whether she would come back, whether this was truly the end, nobody knew. But one thing was certain. This was a moment that would be replayed, analyzed, and debated for years to come. So, what do you think? Was Eddie out of line, or did Joy need to hear those hard truths? Drop a comment below and let us know your take on this whole situation. And if you want to stay updated on what happens next, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because something tells me this story is far from over. What do you think Joy Behar does next after walking away from a view?